There exists a type of creature in the world that has been discovered by a few, but has not been proven to exist. We collectively refer to these creatures as unidentified mysterious animals, unconfirmed biological entities, abbreviated as UMA. Hello everyone, welcome to the UMA video series. The image of dwarfs, or little people, is almost universally recorded in myths and folklore around the world. For example, the carefree dwarfs in Chinese mythology, the mine spirits in Germanic mythology, and the Menehune in Hawaiian mythology. These bizarre legends and stories passed down through generations have always attracted the attention of scholars worldwide. Today, what I want to share with you is an obscure UMA with a dwarf-like image. It is the forest spirit from Malagasy folklore, Kalanoro. The Betsimisaraka are the second largest ethnic group in Madagascar, after the Merina people. While cultural differences exist between the northern and southern branches, it is undeniable that over the years, they have preserved ancient customs and nature worship. Among these, there is a legend of wild, long-haired dwarfs. This includes the Sakalaba people in the northwest, and the Bara people in the central highlands. The legend of the Kalanoro is widespread across Madagascar. It is said that the Kalanoro are the true early humans of the region. They are generally small in stature, with a height of about 2 to 3 feet. Their eyes are red and emotionless. Their bodies, including their heads, are covered in long hair. Some locals believe that their hair is the source of their magic. Their nails are long and sharp. Most notably, their hind limbs have only 3 toes, and they point backward. This makes it so that hunters tracking the Kalanoro can only follow in the wrong direction. They generally feed on raw seafood, fruits, and grains. Sometimes, they enter villages to steal food. More seriously, they are said to kidnap children. According to legend, they are especially interested in boys. They allegedly replace the boys with their own offspring, and force them to drink a special potion that prevents them from growing. Thus, unwanted newborns in Madagascar are sometimes called children of the Kalanoro, depending on the region. Kalanoro is also known as Fahasavi, the Zimba, or Kodaki, among others. However, this identification may not be accurate, as during my research, I found that a descendant of a local group explicitly stated that the Zimba and Kalanoro are completely different species. The former are true humans, representing the oldest local bloodline, while the latter are more akin to witches. In 1886, the London Missionary Society Press published a compilation called the Tananarive Annual and the Madagascar Magazine. An article was recorded in it, titled Some Superstitions of the Betsimisaraka People. This is the earliest written record of the Kalanoro that I could find. In the article, Reverend George Smith describes some of his experiences on the west coast, including a creature called the Kalanoro, a wild forest being. They are small in stature, fond of warm fire sources, and covered in hair. The males are described as having flowing beards. Smith mentioned 2 eyewitnesses, but neither their names nor backgrounds were provided. The first eyewitness claimed that one night while sleeping in the forest, he woke up. The campfire had almost gone out. Suddenly, he noticed a small figure nearby, warming itself and appearing to enjoy it immensely. The description matched what was previously mentioned. The eyewitness was not afraid, and instead grabbed the dwarf's arm. With the other hand, he picked up a nearly extinguished firebrand, and struck the creature's bare body. The creature immediately jumped up, screamed, and fled into the forest. Another eyewitness described seeing a creature sneak into a house. It noticed a fire inside and leftover rice in a pot. It then called its mate. The 2 creatures sat by the fireplace feeding each other, creating a very touching scene. Residents in villages near the town of Mahanoro said these small wild people often enter their homes in search of food. Sometimes, when walking on the streets, you can even hear them calling out to each other. Some integrated resource websites also recorded that the Royal Geographical Society of Great Britain once captured a live Kalanoro in 1889. However, as the latter was skilled in magic, it easily opened the cage and escaped. This report was also recorded in the Society's journal. Regarding this sighting, I carefully reviewed the journals of the Royal Geographical Society from 1889 to 1892. However, I did not find any description of the Kalanoro. In the 1889 consolidated volume, there is indeed a record of an incident involving the capture of a wild man in 1879. However, the height of this so-called wild man was 5 feet 9 inches, which is not short. In the 1890 edition of the journal, there is a report from the German explorer Dr. Emin Pasha, describing his travels in Africa. In the mountains of the Moon near the source of the Nile in East Africa, they found a so-called tribe. This tribe was considered the true ancient people of the region. Their height generally ranged from 39 to 50 inches. They were well proportioned and looked like ordinary people. However, when compared to a European or a Sudanese person, they appeared extremely short. And according to Dr. Pasha's account, at that time, near the equator, scouting and foraging teams captured around 50 such small dwarfs. The tallest among them was 54 inches in height. The accompanying locals referred to them as Watwat and Wambuti. Due to the age of the article, these two names actually refer to the indigenous Pygmy tribes of Africa. The Pygmies, although the dwarfs described in the paper were small in stature, their physical form was no different from humans. Clearly, this description does not match our subject, the Kalanoro. Therefore, this so-called 1889 incident is something I believe warrants further verification. The 27th Governor of Michigan, USA, Chase S. Osborne, in his 1924 book, The Land of the Poa Tree, claimed that he had indeed personally seen a creature resembling a little people tribe. These wild creatures are occasionally captured, but they always escape before being seen by European observers. The author himself did not describe his detailed sighting process in the book. In the 2000 edition of the Africa Travel magazine, there was an article titled Mysteries, Mythical Creatures of Madagascar, which recorded a series of legends described by a local doctor, an expedition guide, Roy Razafemendimbimana. Among these, Roy himself mentioned that in the rice field behind his village, he once saw a Kalanoro. He described it as a small man less than 1 meter tall, covered in hair, with long nails. He also mentioned that this creature is often attracted by the smell of fried pistachios, but it is difficult for people to capture them because their feet point backward. Therefore, trackers always pursue in the wrong direction. Regarding the Kalanoro, one of the most famous modern sightings comes from the American cryptozoologist, Professor Loren Coleman. On January 13, 2006, Professor Coleman posted on a cryptozoology forum an article titled Top Secret Asterisk U.S. Navy SEALs Mysterious Primate Video. Here, I will recount his original words, omitting some unrelated parts. Recently, I learned through a confidential source that at least one unit of the U.S. Navy SEALs encountered a mysterious primate-like creature in Africa, and even recorded a video of it. Due to the sensitive nature of the eyewitnesses' work, we cannot reveal their identity at this time. The team member recounted that between 1997 and 2002, he participated in secret operations in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. According to him, his team observed 13 chimpanzee-like creatures. They were 4.5 to 5 feet tall, had gray bodies, and a row of quill-like spines on their backs. These unidentified primates walked on 2 legs. When the team saw them, the creatures were hunting other animals. When excited or agitated, the spines on their backs would stand upright. According to the eyewitness, the squad filmed these creatures, creating a 3-minute video. However, due to the nature of their work, the video has been classified. The eyewitness still retains the mission map, which can pinpoint the area where the encounter with these large bipedal primates occurred. In the article, Professor Coleman repeatedly called for the operatives to contact him in hopes of obtaining more related information. He stated that if the U.S. Navy SEALs report is accurate, then in the Congo region, there might exist a primate species similar to the Kalanoro. In 2010, an American supernatural documentary team from the show Final Truth traveled to Madagascar to search for the Kalanoro. This documentary has appeared multiple times in my works. What I find most meaningful is that they approached the investigation with a neutral attitude and interviewed some local authorities. Bruno Bessa, the director of the Madagascar National Zoo, told them that most native species cannot be found elsewhere. Additionally, because the forests here are inhabited by many indigenous tribes, there are still large areas that remain undeveloped to this day. No one knows what kinds of creatures might exist within them. Furthermore, they also found researchers studying the island's ecosystem, conducting environmental investigations were zoologists from the Field Museum of Natural History in Chicago, including Stephen Goodman. He stated that the Kalanoro is not a myth or legend, but an actual existing creature. During his forest investigations, he claimed to have personally seen a Kalanoro rescuing a bird caught in a net. Goodman described the creature as being small in stature, approximately 3 to 3.5 feet tall. It had long hair and was entirely naked. Following this, the documentary team traveled to Tsingy de Bemaraha in the northern part of the island. A local wildlife warden, John Mahatso, stated that he himself was once attacked by a Kalanoro in the jungle. The Kalanoro used its sharp claws to grab his body, but possibly decided that John posed no threat and released him before running into the depths of the forest. A national park researcher, Ben Ramdrianbina, stated, "The Kalanoro is an extremely dangerous creature. They can kill humans. Their sharp claws can easily pierce through a human's abdomen. This creature is more commonly found in Amber Mountain National Park." The documentary team set up a base in the park and placed trap cameras, dividing into 3 groups to search. Here, I will extract the key parts of the findings. The first was a group that recorded this sound in the forest. Recording of strange sound. They also discovered a set of footprints resembling those of a human child, and photographed them. The direction of the footprints and the shape of the soil mounds suggest that this creature was digging for something in the ground. The night vision cameras captured a pair of eyes, and when the patrol team arrived, they found only impressions in the grass, but nothing else. Finally, as with all mammals, the heat signals showed inflammation. A strange figure was wandering in the forest, and eventually disappeared into the depths, vanished without a trace. It's your training back in the forest? No, I lost it. Shall I grab those night vision cameras? Goggles, see if you can spot it in there. The French scientist, Raymond de Carey, spent many years in Madagascar, conducting scientific research. Based on his systematic study of local customs, culture, and wildlife in the 1950s, he found that most local tribes shared legends of small creatures, resembling goblins or elves. The names for these creatures varied, such as Baibikli, Kokalanbo, and Kotokli, of course, depending on the region. Their habits and physical appearances differed slightly. For example, near Lake Alaotra, their depiction is uniform, as an underwater race resembling maidens or mermaids that lure fishermen in canoes or abduct their children. Conversely, around Lake Kinkini in the northwest, the Kalanoro is described as a purely masculine creature, but capable of producing sweet, feminine voices. It is less than 3 feet tall, has long hair, and only 3 toes on each foot. It resides in bushes and reeds, along the edges of lagoons, feeding on fish. It lures humans into the deep waters of lakes, causing them to drown. Further to the north, the Kalanoro is described as a tree resin, or bloodthirsty creature, with extreme aggression. Anyone attempting to capture it is brutally killed. It survives by stealing milk, and everyone in the region lives in fear of it. Young parents use the name Kalanoro to scare disobedient children. In 2013, the American cryptozoologist Dr. Carl Schucker published Carnival of Cryptozoology, an African Natural History. In this book, he used the topic to introduce a creature from southeastern Madagascar, specifically the Anasi region, called the creature known as Kotiki, is similar in status to the Kalanoro. In September 2012, a local man named Amy was interviewed. He stated that Kotiki is a small creature, covered entirely in hair. It has a disproportionately large chest and smaller lower limbs. Both male and female specimens have been observed. They are fond of warm objects and instinctively approach sources of fire. They steal people's fish and rice. If humans voluntarily offer them rice, they reciprocate with gifts, usually honey or Madagascan spices. Additionally, Amy provided a sketch of the creature he described. It looks like this. In the following months, James Skinner, an investigator from the UK's Fertion Centre, shared additional descriptions with Dr. Shucker. However, these were second-hand accounts, and not based on direct observations. Due to space constraints, I will not recount everything here. Dr. Carl Shucker concluded that, unless there is an entirely unknown species, a type of lemur, that evolved into a tailless bipedal form of humanoid, the dwarf or fairy-like representation of them, is most likely a primitive form of humanity. As for the backward-facing feet trait, it is more derived from legend, and not an actual biological characteristic. The Kalanoro may have vanished, but they could still exist under another name, Kodaki, continuing to live in the region. Cryptozoologist Bernard Uvelman suggested that the Kalanoro might be a species of giant lemur that has yet to be discovered. These fascinating legends are spread throughout Madagascar. If they were entirely baseless, it would seem highly unlikely. Moreover, much of Madagascar's pristine forests remain unexplored. This theory was first proposed by a French biologist, Professor Charles Lamberton proposed, during his residency in the region from 1911 to 1948, where he specialized in studying extinct subfossil lemurs. He suggested that it might be some species of monkey lemur that survived, thanks to the pristine forest environment. These are also called monkey lemurs, a now extinct medium-sized lemur species with long tails. Due to the scarcity of skeletal remains, this species is one of the least documented extinct lemurs. However, their physical and dental structures indicate that they lived on land and had dietary habits similar to modern lemurs. The currently discovered fossils suggest that this species went extinct between AD 444 and AD 772, which predates the arrival of the first humans and explorers to the region. Professor Lamberton stated that fresh subfossils were found in the southeastern part of the island, indicating that their extinction may not have occurred long ago. At least, the Bara people of Tulier claim that even now, the Kalanoro still reside in the forests of the region, coming into villages at night in search of food. Some evidence suggests that the locals sighted these creatures centuries ago. However, through generations of oral storytelling, they became increasingly mysterious. This phenomenon is quite normal. American cryptozoologist Professor Loren Coleman updated his 2007 post about the Navy SEALs and their encounter. He speculated that the Kalanoro, with its spiked back, might be a species of tree potto. This is a type of leaf-shaped strepsirrhine primate, mostly distributed in the tropical rainforests of Africa, including countries like Guinea, Kenya, and Uganda. Their average body length is 30 to 40 centimeters, with a tail length of 3 to 10 centimeters. They can weigh up to 1.5 kilograms. Their fur is curly and gray-brown in color. Professor Coleman suggested that the tree potto has spines, extending from its spine along the skin of its neck and back. When threatened by predators, these spines become erect. The spines will erect, preventing attackers from biting their necks. The tree potto's 3 vertebrae have sharp tips that almost pierce through the skin, acting as a defensive weapon. Of course, he cannot be certain if the Kalanoro is actually a tree potto. This example is merely to demonstrate that spiked structures have appeared in strepsirrhine primates before. Nature's designs are truly remarkable. After reviewing all this extensive information, I personally believe that the Kalanoro is very likely a small to medium-sized primate. Madagascar is already home to numerous lemur species. Although modern lemur species tend to be smaller in size, in reality, humans often exaggerate descriptions of the unknown. Over time, such exaggerations gradually evolve into another unusual form. Furthermore, the term Kalanoro does not represent a single animal. In some Madagascan tribes, it is more akin to a supernatural spirit. For instance, residents of Ambalakadi village regard a cave called Andabala as the sacred site of the Kalanoro. Missing children are believed to have been taken there by the Kalanoro to punish unloving parents. Similarly, near the Sambarano Valley, it is said that communicating with the Kalanoro requires the help of a medium. Some tribes even believe that the hair of the Kalanoro possesses supernatural powers. Herbalists use their hair to create magical potions, among other things. These strange legends are very popular among the local indigenous communities. From this, it can be seen that the Kalanoro itself is highly mythical in nature. Moreover, when examining the descriptions of sightings closely, you will find almost no detailed depiction of the creature's facial features. One possibility is that no one has ever seen its face directly. Another possibility is that it doesn't resemble a human at all. As for the lemur theory, my personal knowledge is insufficient to make a valid comment. You may refer to the discussions of the aforementioned scholars. Of course, I do not outright deny the concept of a dwarf race. There are simply too many legends and stories related to them. I just hope that one day, on humanity's path of continuous exploration of nature, we can truly unveil the mysterious veil of this mythical species. Finally, as always, the unknown will always outweigh the known. This is the charm of UMA. This concludes today's video. Thank you for watching.